Ever found yourself standing on a train platform, feeling that rush as a train speeds past? It's pretty impressive, right?
Definitely.
All that power, the speed. But have you ever stopped to think about what keeps those trains running safely?
It's not something you think about every day, is it?
Not really, no. It's easy to take for granted the tracks, the signals, the bridges, all that infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, railway infrastructure inspection.
And believe it or not, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
We've got some great resources for this deep dive. We're looking at RoleCatcher's career guide, some interview prep materials they have, even how their AI tools can help you land a job in the field.
It's a pretty comprehensive look at the career path. And honestly, some of the stuff we found was really surprising.
I'm intrigued. So let's get down to it. We're talking about the unsung heroes, the ones who make sure our commute doesn't turn into a disaster movie, right?
Exactly. The ones keeping everything running smoothly behind the scenes.
But what does a railway infrastructure inspector actually do? Paint me a picture.
Well, you can think of them as the eyes and ears of the railways,
Okay, like that.
making sure everything from those rails themselves to the signals and those massive bridges are in tip-top shape.
So it's not just like walking along the tracks with a wrench.
No, it's much more than that.
The guide hinted at a lot more variety, a lot more responsibility, even for those just starting out.
You're right. It's a hands-on job, no question.
Right.
But it also involves a surprising amount of data analysis, assessing risk, and then all the detailed reporting that goes along with it.
So it's like a blend of technical skills and being out in the field. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. A junior inspector, someone just starting their career, they might spend their day, say, meticulously checking sections of track for any tiny flaws.
Wow, so detail-oriented.
Absolutely. Then they'd use specialized equipment to analyze all that data and flag anything that looks like a potential issue.
That's fascinating. It sounds like they need a unique set of skills, technical know-how, but also that sharp eye for detail.
Absolutely. You need both.
And it's not a static job either, is it? I mean, the career progression seems pretty impressive.
You're right. And that's one of the things that surprised me. Unlike a lot of hands-on jobs, this one, you've got a clear path to move up.
Oh, really?
You could end up in management, even consulting, which is not what I expected.
That's amazing.
Imagine, you start by inspecting tracks, and you could end up advising on, say, massive high-speed rail projects.
Wow, that's quite a trajectory.
Yeah. That's the kind of potential this career path has. A chief inspector, for example. They might be overseeing an entire program, managing teams of those inspectors, analyzing all the safety data for a whole region, even consulting on brand new infrastructure projects.
Talk about a high-impact role. That's incredible. Okay, I'm starting to get why this job isn't for everyone.
It takes a special kind of person.
I mean, the guide talked about working outdoors, but in all kinds of weather.
Rain or shine, you're out there.
Climbing structures, documenting everything meticulously, it's demanding.
It's not just physically demanding either. You need some serious mental stamina for this job.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Spending hours scrutinizing those tracks for the tiniest flaws, and then you have to document everything perfectly.
Because those hazards, those potential problems, they're not small potatoes, are they?
No, they are not. We're talking about keeping passengers safe, potentially thousands of them, and making sure that goods, everything that relies on the railways, that it keeps moving across the country.
That's a huge responsibility.
It is, and that's where having that strong moral compass, like the guide mentioned, that's where it's so important.
Right, because it's one thing to follow the regulations, but you need to understand why they're there.
Exactly. You need that deeper understanding so you can apply that knowledge in all these different situations.
So it's about judgment. It's about making those tough calls, sometimes in tough conditions.
Ab-
Which brings us to training and certifications. It's not just about checking boxes, right?
Right.
It's about being prepared for those real-world situations. What kind of qualifications are we talking about here?
So there were two that were highlighted in the guide. The railway engineering certification, and then there's the health and safety certification.
Okay, so two sides to the same coin.
Kind of, yeah. With the railway engineering one, that's not something you just get. You need a deep, deep understanding of the complexities of railway engineering.
That sounds pretty intense.
It is, but you're dealing with physics, with engineering, all of that working together to keep the trains on the tracks.
So you need to know how it all works and works together.
You got it. Track geometry, train dynamics, signaling systems, how to inspect a bridge. It's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, it makes sense though, right? I mean, there's not much room for error when it comes to railways.
None whatsoever.
What about the health and safety certification? What does that involve?
Well, that focuses more on workplace safety, like you'd expect,
Okay, makes sense.
but it's specifically about the railway environment, knowing the regulations, how to identify hazards, and then how to assess the risks involved.
So you're creating a safer work environment, not just for yourself, but for everyone.
Exactly.
It's about those protocols, those best practices, making sure that everyone's on the same page.
Right, it's all connected.
Which makes me wonder, with all this talk about safety, about qualifications, how is technology changing how these inspections are actually done?
Oh, that's a great question, and something the guide touched on.
Right. They mentioned that technology is changing the game.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about fancy tools here. This is high-tech stuff.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Think about drones. They're using those now, equipped with high-definition cameras for aerial inspections. You can cover so much more ground that way.
That's incredible.
And then you've got sensors, literally embedded in the tracks. They can detect microscopic flaws in real time.
Wow, that's amazing.
And all that data. That's where it gets really interesting. They've got sophisticated software now that can process all of that, flag potential problems, even before a human eye could spot them.
It's like the railway industry is having its own, like, digital revolution.
Yeah, and it's changing everything.
It really is amazing how much technology has changed things. But with all this high-tech equipment, the drones, the sensors, how do you even get started in this field?
Good question.
Because it's specialized, right?
It is, yeah.
So I imagine it's competitive.
You're not wrong, but that's where really understanding the industry, the trends, and having those resources, that's what makes a difference.
And it seems like RoleCatcher had some good advice there.
Definitely.
Remember that section on, like, getting started?
Yeah, yeah.
They were really big on having that hands-on experience.
Oh, yeah. Even with entry-level roles, they want to see that you've got some experience.
Which makes sense, right? You're not going to throw someone out there with millions of dollars of equipment and say, here, go inspect this bridge without knowing if they can handle it.
Exactly.
So what do they recommend?
Internships.
Okay.
Internships with either, like, railway companies themselves or maybe some of those inspection firms.
Okay.
Even volunteering.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, volunteering for, like, railway maintenance, things like that.
So showing that you've got the passion, it's one thing to say you're interested, but it's another thing to actually get out there and get your hands dirty, right?
Absolutely. That's what employers want to see.
It makes a big difference. You know, imagine you've got two candidates. You've got one with a degree, but that's it, no real world experience. And then you've got someone who's, you know, maybe spent their weekends volunteering on a heritage railway or something.
It shows dedication.
Exactly, shows that commitment. Okay, so you've gotten your foot in the door, you've got some experience under your belt. What about the interview process itself? Any curveballs, anything aspiring inspectors should prepare for?
Yeah, the guide had some good examples of questions. They really want to get a sense of how you think on your feet.
Okay, so it's not just like, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. They want to see how you actually solve problems.
Exactly.
Give me an example, like what kind of question?
They might ask you about a time that you had to troubleshoot a problem, like under pressure,
Yeah.
or how you would prioritize safety if you're dealing with a really challenging situation out in the field.
It's all about those real-world scenarios, which brings us, I think, to the elephant in the room.
The AI.
The AI, exactly.
The algorithms.
The algorithms.
Yeah.
Because those automated hiring systems, those ATS, they can be tough. You never really know what you're dealing with.
It's a black box.
It really is. But that's where RoleCatcher's approach to AI is interesting.
Yeah, they're trying to give applicants an edge.
They're like, we're going to demystify this process for you. And one way they do that is through their CV resume builder.
It's like having a secret weapon.
It is. Because it's like they've cracked the code. It's like having that decoder ring for these applicant tracking systems. So how does it work?
So they analyze job descriptions, but they're looking for the specific skills, the key words that employers are really prioritizing.
Okay.
And then they help you tailor your application so you're highlighting those specific things.
It's like having your own personal marketing expert.
Exactly. So your resume doesn't just disappear into the void.
Right, because it's not about trying to trick the system.
Right.
It's about understanding how it works.
Exactly.
And then using that to your advantage. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. We've learned so much about a field that, frankly, I didn't know much about before.
Oh, me neither.
But it's clearly a vital one.
Absolutely.
And, you know, who knows? Maybe there's someone listening out there fascinated by how things work, who loves problem solving, has that commitment to safety. This could be the perfect career path for them. And maybe they'll be the ones inspecting those high-speed rails or even designing the next generation of railway infrastructure.
It's an exciting time to be in the field, and if you're interested in learning more, you know where to go. RoleCatcher's got all the tools and the advice to get you on the right track. Until next time.